cycle. Weakening American dollar stokes a rebound in commodities prices. The general established principle is whenever American dollar is weakened, then commodity prices will rise. So, the editorial argues the rise in commodity prices at present are to be attributed to the weakening of the dollar index weakened by 10% since the beginning of the year, and the recent rally in commodity prices is to be seen from that perspective, but not due to any global rebound in the economy across the world, right. So, here global commodity prices witnessed a bull run. Bullish trend is increasing, bearish trend is reducing. In stock markets, we come across this bullish and bearish. Then it revives the hopes of the beginning of the next super cycle in commodity prices. In fact, if you look at various commodity prices, aluminum prices hit 6-year record last month. Similarly, copper, zinc, nickel recorded multi-year highs, and many of these commodities gained 30 to 40%. So, the end of the previous commodities super cycle in 2014 was followed by steep fall in commodity prices, and now they gained, some of the commodities gained 30 to 40%. And here the important point to note is, here the editorial says that this is because of the weakening of the dollar index. We are going to deliberate on what is dollar index, and that is because of the weakening, and it is nothing to do with the global economic cycle or the rebound in the global economic arena, right. So, what are the reasons for the present revival of commodity prices? In fact, the current price rise began with the election of Donald Trump, which led to the hopes of increased public investment in infrastructure projects. Then at the same time, there are signs of revival of global economy, especially in several western countries. Then there were several curbs on production imposed by Chinese government because of pollution, and because of that there was a lot of speculation. Because of speculation also, these commodity prices increased. So, the speculators propagated that there will be inadequate supply in the market in future because of the curbs in the Chinese market, or you can say curbs imposed by the China in view of pollution. But the present rally seems to be driven by easy money than anything else, right. So, here you may have a pertinent doubt why oil is an exception. Almost all the commodities rallied, but oil is exception because of the reason this shale oil production through the fracking technique, because of the shale oil through fracking technique that became viable, and now it is facing resistance at around $50 a barrel. It may not go down to 30, 40, but it may hover around 50 to 55, because in fact the cartel of OPEC is broken with the extent of this shale oil into the market, and because of this reason oil is showing resistance at $50 a barrel. Please do not forget. Now, US dollar index and commodity prices. You may have a doubt what is meant by US dollar index. US dollar index is an index of the value of United States dollar relative to the basket of foreign currencies. Foreign currencies means predominantly it take currencies like euro. That means US main trading partners currencies will have the weightage in the dollar index, and in relation to that foreign currencies which are predominantly the trading partners, this US dollar index is weakened by 10% since the beginning of the year. So, current rally in commodities is due to the weakening of the dollar than any substantial change in the global economic outlook. So, the historic relationship between US dollar index and the commodity prices appears to have been restored now, because the commodity prices were contrary to this perception some time back, a few months ago. But if you see now, it is almost established, or you can say the established benchmark of the relation between US dollar index and commodity prices is restored now, and now the commodity prices rise is nothing to do with global economic outlook as per this editorial. Right friends, first one is completed. Social revolution in a jam. Please recollect the finance minister's statement recently. I discussed in Press Information Bureau also. The finance minister stated that 1 billion, 1 billion, 1 billion, that means 100 crore bank accounts, 100 crore mobile numbers, 100 crore Aadhaar. If we interlink all these things, it will result in not only digital revolution, it also results in social revolution. But here, what is the meaning of social revolution? How the integration of JAM may not result in social revolution? All these things are clearly explained in this lead article of the Hindu, and it is quite important. The question is, Jan Dhan Yojana bank account, Aadhaar, mobile, popularly known as JAM, will result in social revolution. Critically examine. But the point to note here is the integration of these three will have several advantages, no doubt about it. It will certainly plug the loopholes in the subsidies. It will result in lot of savings for the government. Then individuals can be, you can say, bona fide persons, or you can say whenever any subsidies are given, you can zero in on the bona fide persons to plug the leakages. Then it will usher in this digital revolution, digital payments will increase. All these things are one part, that means these are all the advantages, but social revolution is something different. So, here if you look at the statement of Arun Jaitley, he coined the theme Jan Dhan Yojana and the 1 billion, 1 billion, 1 billion JAM revolution. So, here once that is done, India can become part of financial and digital mainstream, just like GST created one tax, one market, one India. Absolutely fine. This will be, India will become part of financial and digital mainstream, digital payments will increase, banking penetration will increase, all these things will happen. So, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana and JAM revolution can link all the Indians to one common financial, economic and digital space. This is also may be correct, but here no Indian will be outside the mainstream. This is nothing short of a social revolution. The final statement of the finance minister is JAM will lead to social revolution, but the author says that it is not possible to ensure social revolution with JAM. There are many things to be done. Those things we are going to deliberate. In the words of the finance minister, we have just now seen, this conveys equality as a criterion of governance. In the words of the finance minister, everything is well. What is this JAM? We discussed number of times. It combines Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. It facilitates direct transfer of benefits into the accounts. So, it ensures financial payments through mobile phones also. Bheem app was also developed so as to increase the payments through mobile phones. So, Aadhaar will be the pivot here. So, taking Aadhaar as the pivot, by using this mobile number, by using the bank account, you can bring revolutionary change in the digital payments arena. That is 100% correct. No one can dispute that. But the issue is, when it comes to social revolution, Here you see, after going through this article, you will come to know about what exactly the meaning of social revolution, how the economic inclusion is different from financial inclusion. What is the financial inclusion? Financial inclusion is having the bank account and making available various loan products, making available various pension products, making available various insurance products to the common man by using digital means. Certainly the meaning of it is the financial revolution, financial inclusion. But to ensure social revolution, it requires economic inclusion. Financial inclusion is the one part of story. Financial inclusion itself will not lead to social revolution. For social revolution to take place, it requires economic inclusion. What is the meaning of economic inclusion and how it is different from financial inclusion? We are going to deliberate now. Economic inclusion entails equal access to opportunities for earning a livelihood. So, this article revolves around giving the equal opportunities for earning a livelihood. That means employment opportunities must be equal to each and every citizen of this country. So, here as the demand for labor is a derived demand, that means the demand for labor derives from the demand for goods and services. So, first of all, demand for goods and services must be created. That means economic growth must be there. Once the economic growth is there, then you will have derived demand for labor. But two things are very important. The physical infrastructure is to be created first, and at the same time to give equality of opportunities to 130 crore people of the country, you should have in fact the mechanism to develop capabilities to all the citizens of the country. That requires good civic physical infrastructure. Not only that, education and health facilities, they must be universal. So, unless the government does not ensure these things, then economic inclusion is not possible. Of course, government can go for this financial inclusion, but economic inclusion is having the real meaning when people are to be heralding a social revolution, right. So, here the significant element of economic inclusion is ensuring level of demand in the economy. So, GDP is one aspect which is important, level of demand, but recent times the private investment is coming down, that is the worrying aspect, leave that aside. Now, the job has the potential to provide the livelihoods. So, everything revolves around livelihoods, whether the job has got the potential for providing the livelihoods. Here you see the potential of the job trinity for bringing about either of these conditions, that means demand and improving the capabilities is limited. So, the fundamental point is economic inclusion involves creating demand, at the same time improving the capabilities of the masses in the country. And when you look at these two aspects, the role of job is probably limited. Then, because job functions in the digital space, much of our life is in the brick and mortar world. That means developing the capabilities and at the same time developing the, or you can say creating the opportunities, right. In the brick and mortar world, we have seen very little improvement during the past 25 years after the economic reforms were launched. So, the aim of 1991 economic reforms, basically liberalization, that means to make easy for the firms to produce and at the same time exposing them to international competition. So, the underlying principle is efficiency of the economy will increase, but there are two glaring failures. First and the foremost is with regard to the creation of public utility facilities. If you look at water supply, if you look at the sanitation, here if you hand it over these essential physical infrastructure to private firms, what will happen? They will take lot of money from the users, but in our country the users, not only the residents, but also the micro small enterprises people, because you see in our country there are crores of self employed groups which we call micro enterprises. So, they may not be in a position to pay for these services or utilities. So, the biggest failure is the government could not develop proper necessary waste disposal mechanisms, sanitation mechanisms, water supply mechanisms. So, this is one biggest failure after new economic policy, right. So, the first failure is creation of the facilities for leading the healthy life, at the same time for leading the dignified life was failed. In fact, governments failed to create this. Second one is, of course, for improving the human capabilities. Please do not forget, you have to club these two things to examine what went wrong during the past 70 years, especially during the past 25 years. You see, the equality means comparison of human capabilities. Here, human capabilities can be improved universally when the people have universal access to health care and education. And we discussed about two things. Governments failed in providing physical infrastructure which is required for the development of the country. Then second point is, government failed to provide qualitative universal health care and qualitative education infrastructure, and these are clearly evident when you look at Gorakhpur hospital incident. Second thing is heavy rainfall and its consequences in Mumbai. Third one is the suburb of Ghazipur, where the, or you can say Delhi's suburb of Ghazipur, where the garbage mountain came crashing down. So, the failure of the government in physical infrastructure, education, health quite evident. So, finally, JAM can revolve around social revolution. Certainly, the role of JAM for social revolution is limited because of the above mentioned failures of the governments. JAM ensures seamless transfer of welfare payments and facilitates making payments in real time, but they certainly fall short of the social revolution as claimed by the honorable minister. Our social revolution will arrive when all the Indians are empowered through an equality of capabilities. Equality of capabilities is possible when each and every citizen has got access to civic infrastructure of dignified life, at the same time universal health care as well as educational services. But that is not there. Without that, economic inclusion is not possible, and this JAM cannot look at economic inclusion. So, social revolution is not possible with the JAM. Its role is limited as far as economic inclusion is concerned. This is all about this article. Then, to ensure social revolution, this requires committing resources to building the requisite social infrastructure, physical infrastructure, not only developing but maintaining the physical infrastructure is also important aspect. Unless this is developed, then the role of JAM will be limited in heralding social revolution. Third one, demonetization, and as the last article we are going to deliberate interlinking of rivers, which is quite thought provoking from Live Mint. This is in fact 3 opinions. I converted into only 2 opinions: pros, cons. Pros of demonetization, cons of demonetization, advantages, disadvantages. There are several arguments going on for and against. Anyone can argue for number of hours as far as demonetization is concerned, and discuss the pros and cons of the demonetization of specified bank notes of rupees 500 and rupees 1000. As per the RBI's annual report, 99% of the demonetized notes have returned back to Reserve Bank of India. Only rupees 16,000 crores value of notes out of around 15.5 lakh crores of value of notes have not returned back. So, the next important aspect is government said the number of e-returns increased by 25%. At the same time, the number of advance tax payees in value terms increased by 42%. So, government says these are the fallout of demonetization, and P. Chidambaram said 99% notes legally exchanged. RBI gained this much, lost this much. So, he has gone against demonetization as usual, and Arun Jaitley, the finance minister, has gone defending demonetization, and here he talked about it put an end to terror funding, and it is with a view to bring digitization, it is to bring down cash in economy. All these things are in fact achieved with demonetization in the words of the finance minister. Now, let us look at demonetization pros, demonetization cons taken from this article, and there are strong arguments this side and that side. This question you can expect probably as group discussion or in the essay, maybe question in some form. So, this is very important. All these points, have thorough knowledge about all these points. Corruption has made the government dysfunctional. I am talking about pros of demonetization. Corruption has made the government dysfunctional. What is crony capitalism? In fact, because of corruption, crony capitalism flourished, or you can say crony capitalism resulted in lot of corruption. Crony capitalism is some sort of unethical relationship between bureaucrats as well as this businessmen to derive some unethical benefits. It may be between political leaders as well as business leaders. So, crony capitalism is very important word, please do not forget. So, crony capitalism flourished at the expense of honest entrepreneurs. Moreover, there is rampant tax evasion. That means state government did not have enough money to invest in uplifting the capabilities of the most vulnerable citizens. So, demonetization has made disruption to this vicious cycle. With one stroke, government intends to disrupt crony capitalism, intends to disrupt tax evasion, intends to disrupt corruption, right. Next one is, there were always short run costs. No doubt government admits there are short run costs hitting the GDP, at the same time hitting the people for few months with the shortage of currency, at the same time disruption of MSMEs is there. But government says if one looks at the long term benefits, these are not substantial. So, the long term benefits outweigh the short term pain in the views of the government. Then people are talking about 99% money coming back to Reserve Bank of India. But the important point to note is, now anonymity has gone. Whoever deposited money in the banking system, their details are with the government. Government can look at who are at default. Operation Clean Money is for that purpose. So, now the anonymity is lost. That is the biggest achievement. Then finance minister says there is substantial increase, or you can say substantial increase in debit card, credit card transactions. Especially when you look at debit card transactions, they increased substantially from 1.6 lakh crores to 3.3 lakh crores. That means debit card transactions doubled because of demonetization. Some natural growth will certainly be there, but they doubled predominantly due to demonetization. Then another important aspect is here 1.48 lakh accounts are there who deposited more than rupees 80 lakh in the bank accounts. Now the income tax department is behind them. Operation Clean Money is in progress. So the perpetrators will be brought to book. Then NEFT transactions also increased, and the Prime Minister, after coming back to power in 2014, launched multi-pronged attack on corruption, whether it is Benami Properties Transaction Act, then establishment of SIT for going into the black money, or the Black Money Act. So several steps are taken, curbs on this participatory notes, like that lot many curbs are imposed after this government came to power. Demonetization is a continuation of those aspects. At the same time, because of demonetization, terrorist activities reduced as told by the government, and the money, black money with the terror funding, or you can say terror funding reduced drastically, fake notes have gone away. This is the argument of the proponents or the center. So the demonetization should not be viewed only in short term perspective, but when one views in long term perspective, it is much beyond the short term pain. That is what the proponents say, or what the advantages of demonetization, or what the government view says. Now let us look at the opposite view. Opposite view is also equally strong. First one is, cash is only one component of black wealth, and here the important point to note is the cash is just 1% of black wealth, and it was implemented with the premise, that means demonetization was implemented with the premise that black money means cash. That is why it was destined to fail. Black money is in the form of buildings, black money is in the form of land. So black money in the form of cash is hardly 1%. That is why the failure of demonetization. Then any black cash squeezed out by demonetization would then quickly get regenerated. Now it will be regenerated once again. So therefore it will have little impact as far as this black money is concerned. Then government changed its stance several times. Previously it was said that the real aim of demonetization was less cash society. Now it says ideal money has come back into the banking system, cash to GDP ratio will decline, tax base will expand, but the opponents say that for doing all these things, we do not require demonetization. Government, if it has got willpower, it can do, but it does not require demonetization. Then government's argument that the cash coming back to the banks will enable it to catch generators of a black income, and thus there will be formalization of economy, does not hold good. This is because of the reason that much of the cash in the system is held by tens of millions of small businesses and more than 25 crore households in their day-to-day transactions, and it is not easy to pinpoint who is holding the black money, as we have already stated that 99% of black money is in the form of buildings, land and other assets. Large deposits by businesses does not automatically become black. The income tax department will have a tough time in proving that the money is black. Large businesses, they somehow escape one way or the other. Income tax department will have tough time in proving even the deposited money into the banks as at least part of it as black, and it was carried out without preparation. There was a lot of damage to unorganized sector. GDP was hit badly, at least 1 or 2%. Then the entire discourse was revolving around 3 to 4 lakh crores of rupees coming back to the banking system, was revolving around. The entire discourse was revolving around rupees 3 to 4 lakh crores not coming back to the banking system. Please understand, please correct this statement. The entire discourse was revolving around rupees 3 to 4 lakh crores not coming back to the banking system, but this could not happen. The other reason cited was in fact fake currency, but the fake currency was found substantially less. Other situation is with regard to terrorism, and we cannot conclusively prove that terrorism is reduced because of demonetization. Statistics are required for this. So, these are the in fact against demonetization. In general, the argument goes on with the pros and cons, but the fact remains that the government's own assessment with regard to notes not returning back to Reserve Bank of India, effect on informal sector, effect on GDP have gone off the track. This is the only fact what we can see now till date, and remaining things are in fact you can argue this way or that way to any extent as far as demonetization is concerned. So, I have put the balanced view on both the sides, right friends. For a robust data protection regime, before going into the interlinking of rivers, I would like to spend 2-3 minutes on this. Now, for preparing draft data protection bill, Justice B. N. Sri Krishna committee was constituted, and it will be the first exclusive statute once it comes into force. Of course, it is quite far away, it is still in the draft stage, and it will be India's first exclusive statute providing protection to online users, personal data from breach by not only state, but also non-state actors like Facebook, WhatsApp, right. So, once it becomes a law, it will be India's first exclusive statute providing protection to online users. Then, in the office memorandum, it is stated that government is cognizant of the growing importance of data protection, because it is the duty of the government to keep personal data of citizens secure and protected. It is assumed utmost importance. Then what about the recent right to privacy judgment? In fact, the right to privacy judgment highlighted the committee's role in evolving a robust data protection regime. Then the conceptual foundation was led by a committee which was constituted by the erstwhile Planning Commission. It was headed by former Delhi High Court Chief Justice A.P. Shah, and here both the government and the court have agreed that it would be the conceptual foundation for legislation protecting privacy. So, already some foundation was led in the form of committee in 2012, which was constituted by the erstwhile Planning Commission, and 5 cardinal principles in the data protection. 5 cardinal principles are to be ensured. What are they? First one is technological neutrality and interoperability with international standards. Data protection must be there, but at the same time technological neutrality and interoperability with international standards is the need of the hour. Then multi-dimensional privacy, privacy not only from state actors, but also from non-state actors. Horizontal applicability to state and non-state entities. Of course, multi-dimensional means it must have several features. If I want to block, I can block. If I want to retrieve my information, I can retrieve. If I want to block my information, I should block. If I want to stop the information from flowing ahead, I can stop. Like that, if I want to make corrections, I can correct. So, this is the meaning of multi-dimensional privacy. Then conformity with the privacy principles, then co-regulatory enforcement regime. So, what were the recommendations of Shah committee? It emphasized on taking the informed and individual consent of users. So, whenever anyone is collecting the data, it must take informed, that means I must be informed, and at the same time individual consent must be taken. It had proposed giving users prior notice of information practices and providing them with choices. At the same time, collection of only limited data necessary. They should not take all the data, they have to take only the limited data required for some particular purpose. If there is a change of purpose than originally intended, it must be notified to the person. Most important is the report proposed access for users. If I have given my data, I should have access to my information if I want to correct, if I want to make any amendments. So, that means the handle will be with the person who provided data. So, this is very important aspect. So, this concludes this data protection, because this is still in the draft stage. So, please do not forget, draft data protection bill is being prepared by former Justice Sri Krishna committee, right, and the benchmark will be AP Shah committee recommendations few years ago, right. Most important aspect, last article for today, I would like to take 5 to 10 minutes. This is interlinking of rivers. People are talking a lot about interlinking of rivers. Critically examine various aspects pertaining to interlinking of rivers project. Here you see a glance at interlinking. Here this Ken Betwa project. In fact, this is into the news several times during the past 2-3 years, because of the construction of this project, Panna Tiger Reserve is going to be affected. So, here the project we are talking about overall river linking project. It involves 30 rivers. The basic crux of the matter is this Himalayan rivers, they are perennial rivers. So, Himalayan rivers water is to be diverted by interlinking right up to Kanyakumari, right. It involves 30 rivers as well as 3000 storage structures. That means, it involves around 3000 storage reservoirs. Then they spread across 15,000 kilometer canal network. 15,000 kilometers canals are to be constructed. Then it will transfer so much of water every year. The cost is 5.6 trillion rupees. This tantamounts to 5.5 lakh crores of rupees. 5.5 lakh crores of rupees, and this may increase if you revise the total cost, it may go up to 10 lakh crores of rupees or so. This is on par with some of the most daring feats of engineering attempted in the history of mankind, or you can say it is reimagining the entire ecosystem of the country as large as diverse as India. Then what does the proponents say? Proponents are there, opponents are there. So, what does the proponents say? It will irrigate 87 million acres, which is a huge land. So, it will provide assured irrigation to 87 million acres of farmland, in addition to controlling the floods. Then the rain fed farmers will be saved from the vagaries of nature. Then it will generate 34,000 megawatt of hydroelectricity, and simultaneous floods and droughts are destroying the lives and livelihoods of millions at present, and interlinking of rivers probably save many of them from vagaries of nature. So, these are the advantages. In spite of huge cost, it has got lot of potential benefits, but it has got several challenges. First one is availability of surplus. Some of the opponents say that it is being built on bad science and an outdated understanding of water systems and water management. The concept of surplus and deficit river basins is misunderstood in the eyes of some of the opponents, and a recent study of IIT Mumbai and Chennai stated that during the past 103 years, the rainfall has decreased over the years by more than 10%, and even in the river basins that once had surplus like Mahanadi and Godavari, rainfall decreased substantially. So, the science of calculating surplus plus is to be scientifically done. That is the first challenge. Second one is effect of flora and fauna. Here the interlinking of rivers is not unidimensional water pipeline. It involves several storage structures, reservoirs, canals crisscrossing across the country. The country has got number of wildlife sanctuaries, bioreserves, and there is every possibility that flora and fauna may be affected. So, any changes in its natural course will have an impact on the flora and fauna, animals and plant life. The wetlands may be destroyed and the flood plains that are intricately linked to the river systems may be affected. So, the important need of the hour is long term environmental impact of such projects is the main concern. So, Ken-Betwa link is struck up for several years because some land is to be diverted from Panna Tiger Reserve, right. Third one is, or you can say, before going ahead, we have seen lot many examples in the world. I have gone in detail into these examples. Please go through these examples, why they have mentioned these rivers. Soviet Union's decision to divert this Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers, which fed the Aral Sea. Lot of waters have been diverted here in the then Soviet era, and because of diversion, probably in his mind is Aral Sea is shrinking now. One of the fastest shrinking is Aral Sea, and probably that may be in the mind of the author, or you can say editorial. Please go through these two issues. I have not gone in detail. Other one is Australian government's experiments in its Murray-Darling basin. They had its circumstances. So, please look into these two issues. Then political challenges. In fact, recently after Nitin Gadkari took over as this ministry, governments of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh are unable to agree on how much water is to be transferred in Ken-Betwa link. This came to the notice of Nitin Gadkari. A few days ago, the new minister intervened and called for a meeting of chief ministers concerned, but this will not be an easy bargain, right. So, the point to note here is water transfer and water sharing are highly sensitive subjects in our country, and these are going on for several decades, and few political parties can support the interlinking of rivers because of this scarce natural resource. When it is diverted to the other state, its political fallout will be huge. Some of the governments may be required to lose power. Water is the state subject, but even though the center is empowered for interstate rivers in the national interest, but it is bound to lead to lot of unrest in various states. So, it is highly sensitive political issue, please do not forget. So, what is the conclusion? The interlinking of rivers has got a massive price tag. There will be political opposition in several states. It will not be that easy. Damage to environment is to be investigated. Results are also uncertain in some cases because of the vagaries of nature in nowadays. So, before trying for this, government can think of other alternatives. Considering interventions, Israel is classic example. We can look at the interventions such as conservation of water resources, more efficient irrigation and agriculture practices. That means ensuring efficiency in the irrigation practices. In our country, 80% of water is used for irrigation purposes. So, ensuring efficiency in agriculture, then at the same time water conservation. So, we have to go look at these things before looking at interlinking of rivers, because interlinking of rivers has got its own political fallout, on flora and fauna, or you can say environment destruction. So, all these things should be scientifically analyzed before going ahead.